Welcome back. This is my second video of a series of rebuttals to the apostates video on the JW Defense channel, and I'm going through point by point and explaining why basically it's a load of nonsense. So let's crack on with the video and we'll see what else is said.
A second characteristic to identify an apostate is commented on at Acts 20:30. And from among you yourselves men will rise and speak twisted things to draw away the disciples after themselves. Apostates are not content with just abandoning Jehovah God. They want to take others with them. Rather than going out and making their own disciples, they try to draw away and lure Christ's disciples after themselves.
Now this is actually a key point which I would like to make. So first of all, you'll notice how God equals Watchtower in this point that's made. The narrator said, apostates are not content with just abandoning Jehovah God. Okay, so notice there how the assumption is made that the Watchtower Society is almost tantamount to Jehovah God. So if you leave the Watchtower Society, you've left Jehovah God. The second thing, which is most significant in my view, is this very sort of juvenile, these are our disciples, we found them first, you go and find your own disciples. This whole kind of argument. Apostates apparently seek to draw off followers after themselves. Apostates are crazily trying to find their own followers. They want the limelight. They want people to follow them, to listen to their every word. I'm an apostate, or I consider myself an apostate. I have left my former beliefs, so that's according to the dictionary, I am an apostate. Okay, I have absolutely no interest whatsoever in acquiring followers for myself. It just doesn't interest me. Okay, and people could say, "Oh yes, but you've got a website, you've got a blog. People comment on it. You must be wanting to kind of amass followers for yourself." Honestly, it just doesn't interest me. I'm only interested in reporting truth about the organisation that has taken more than 20 years of my life and continues to hold my family hostage. That's all I'm interested in, is reporting that information and giving people the knowledge that they need to make their own decision about whether they want to stay a part of this organisation or not. That is all I'm interested in. Once they've made that decision, once they've read what's on my website, and they've perhaps decided that they want to leave Jehovah's Witnesses, leave the Watchtower Society, my work is done. I honestly could not care less, without wishing to be too indifferent to people who read my website. I honestly couldn't care less what happens next. Okay, as far as I'm concerned, they can go on and live their lives. If you're watching this video, surely you are an adult, you have the tools that you need to make your own decisions in life and not have 8 men determining and micromanaging every single facet of the decisions you make and the life choices you make. On the other hand, the governing body in New York, the 8 members, absolutely insist on having followers, on being the masters over the lives of 8 million people around the world, on micromanaging them, on telling them in minute detail how to live their lives, what to do in marriages, what programs should or shouldn't be watched, what websites should or shouldn't be visited, how people should dress when they go to Bethel, whether or not people should have beards, whether or not people should celebrate birthdays. That's the level of control that the governing body is interested in, and yet I am somehow, as an apostate, interested in having followers. If you're interested, by the way, in following me, oh, look at this guy Cedars, maybe we should follow him, go away. I'm not interested. I have enough going on in my life. Keeping food on my table and running a website and doing various other things without having to worry about keeping an eye on other people.
Apostates prey among members of the congregation, seeking to carry them away from the flock.
Okay, so apparently apostates prey on members of the congregation. Okay, so instantly you've got this image in your head of perhaps a predator in the wild. This paints obviously a very negative picture. It makes it look as though apostates are somehow trying to deceive Jehovah's Witnesses, are trying to withhold information from them, are trying to ensnare them or trick them in some way. Okay, that honestly, again, speaking as an apostate, I have no interest in saying, as Watchtower does, you must only listen to my side of the story. Okay, I completely repudiate that. What I encourage every Jehovah's Witness to do is do research, not just in Watchtower publications, but in other sources as well, that give you a more objective view of what the organisation is, what its history is, what decisions it's making, what its policies are. Of course, if you read only Watchtower literature, you're going to come back with a very positive view of the Watchtower Society. Of course you are, okay? You're only going to know the full picture once you start doing objective research, which is what I encourage people to do. That is not preying on Jehovah's Witnesses. If anything, it's the Watchtower Society who are preying on people, because they do trick people, they do withhold information. You're not allowed to read the Shepherd the Flock of God book unless you're an elder, okay? When Jehovah's Witnesses go out on the ministry, they don't tell people about the fact that Jesus apparently visited Earth in 1919 and chose Joseph Rutherford to be one of the first members of his faithful and discreet slave. They don't say that on in the preaching work because it just sounds so stupid. Okay? They wait until people are indoctrinated before, oh, by the way, did you hear about the 1919 teaching? Isn't it marvellous? By which time people will believe anything. But of course they pull the wool over people's eyes by not including that information. And if you go on jw.org, try, if you can, to find the Revelation Climax book for download. Okay? You won't find it, it's not there. Because Jehovah's Witnesses don't want the public to see how crazy they are, to see some of their weirdest beliefs. That, in my view, is preying on people. That's taking advantage. That's pulling the wool over people's eyes, making them see only one side of the picture and not the other.
Also, they seek to cause divisions in the congregation. However, there also came to be false prophets among the people, as there will also be false teachers among you. These very ones will quietly bring in destructive sects, and will disown even the owner that brought them, bringing speedy destruction upon themselves. 2 Peter 2:1. To accomplish this, apostates tend to cook up misleading reasonings and false information about Jehovah's organization. They are always spreading lies about Jehovah's Witnesses in an attempt to deceive people, an attempt to draw people away from Jehovah God.
So this is when we start to get to the really interesting part of this video. The narrator starts accusing apostates of being liars. He says they are always spreading lies about Jehovah's Witnesses to try and deceive people. Well, as I've mentioned just now, we're not interested, or I'm not interested in, cooking up lies or trying to make people believe things that aren't true. What I want is for Jehovah's Witnesses to look at both sides, to research not just what the Watchtower Society says, but what's been written about the Watchtower Society, what the media has to say, what scholarly sources there are, what the history is, and including the history of the Watchtower literature. And I'm talking going right back to Russell. What's the organisation been doing since its inception? Those are the kind of things that I want Jehovah's Witnesses to look at. But you won't find the Watchtower Society going to quite such lengths to educate their followers about what the organisation is like. Instead, you get a very sanitised version of their history that makes them look absolutely squeaky clean and leaves out all of the scandals. So this idea of apostates lying, I take very seriously, and I'll explain why I take it seriously later. If you're going to accuse people of lying, then you better have some examples. Just watch the rest of the video to see whether any examples are given.
So the second characteristic in identifying an apostate is that they seek to draw away Christ's disciples after themselves and cause divisions.
Precisely what authoritarian, dictatorial, unimpeachable organisation or authority is not going to say that its opponents are trying to cause trouble, are trying to cause division, are trying to lead people away? Of course Watchtower is going to say that.
A third characteristic to identify apostate is that they claim to serve Jehovah, but they reject his representatives. The Apostle John mentions such a person by name in 3 John verse 9. I wrote something to the congregation, but Diotrephes, who likes to have the first place among them, does not receive anything from us with respect. John was opposed by Diotrephes, a man who had little respect for John's authority. In an attempt to discredit Jehovah's representative, Diotrephes was chattering about John with wicked words. 3 John 10. Like Diotrephes, apostates claim to serve God, but reject his representatives. They lie to authorities. Through the media, they seek to discredit Jehovah's people and incite bans on our work.
So this is an interesting point about Diotrephes, and I'll come back to this scripture in 3 John 10 later in the video. But the narrator says, like Diotrephes, apostates claim to serve God but reject his representatives. Again, how are they his representatives? They lie to the authorities. Examples, none are given. Through the media, they seek to discredit Jehovah's people and incite bans on his work. And it also mentions, as regards Diotrephes, he does not receive anything from us with respect. Okay, I am personally of the belief that respect is something that is earned rather than demanded. So if, for example, Watchtower acted in a merciful way, decided that a family was a sacred thing and shouldn't be divided on religious grounds, decided that children should not be abused, that those accused of abusing them should face the legal system, if they believed that women who were beaten should be entitled to leave a marriage, if they believed that all children should decide for themselves whether they should go through higher education and better themselves as human beings, I could easily respect an organisation that said those things. But Watchtower is the complete opposite. So respect is something you earn. And this point about lying to the media, interestingly, I'm of the opinion that the media does not give Watchtower nearly enough attention. Okay, in my view, they seem obsessed with Scientology rather than Jehovah's Witnesses. But on the few instances where the media does report on Jehovah's Witnesses, usually it's through their own resources. If a child abuser gets locked up or gets convicted and it turns out he's a Jehovah's Witness, the media is going to find out about it. Okay, it has nothing to do with apostates. And as regards lying to the media, it's interesting that that's mentioned because there was an article in 2011, The Independent, when the whole fuss was kicked up about mentally diseased. A representative of the Watchtower Society, Rick Fenton, who I actually know, went on record saying that shunning, was a personal matter for each individual to decide for himself. Any one of Jehovah's Witnesses is free to express their feelings and to ask questions, says Rick. He said, if a person changes their mind about Bible-based teachings they once held dear, we recognise their right to leave. Absolute nonsense. This is a flagrant lie. You are not free to leave Jehovah's Witnesses. If you decide that you no longer want to be a Jehovah's Witness and you have family who are Jehovah's Witnesses, Do not expect them to speak to you. Expect to have your family used against you as a sick means of emotional blackmail. That's a lie that Rick Fenton told as a Watchtower representative to the media, and yet it's apostates who apparently tell lies to the media. Well, decide for yourself.
So the third characteristic in identifying an apostate is that they reject, lie about, and try to discredit Jehovah's representatives.
So I've already mentioned how the narrator, JW Defense, whoever's done this video, has, without any examples at all, accused apostates like me of lying. And here he says, they, that's apostates, reject, lie about, and try to discredit Jehovah's representatives. Now, Jehovah's Witnesses have a word for people who accuse others of wrongdoing without any evidence. You've already thought of it, haven't you? It's slander. Okay, if you accuse someone of doing something that they haven't done, for which you will have no evidence because they haven't done it, then you've slandered that person. And I wanted to read a quote from the 1961 Watchtower, 1st of July, page 410. It's very interesting, okay, just bear with me. It says, "From the words of Jesus, it is apparent that the evil slave is a traitor." So it's talking about apostates. "How does he show it? By beating his fellow slaves and by associating with those who are disreputable in God's sight, the confirmed drunkard spiritually so. Does he beat his fellows with a literal rod? No, for the laws of the land would not permit that. Rather, he seeks to cause pain to his fellow slaves by hard and bitter speech, by slander, false propaganda, by assertions for which no proof is given, nor indeed can be given." Does that ring any bells? "This he does both by the spoken and the printed word." And this is the beautiful part. "He is like Diotrephes, concerning whom the Apostle John wrote, he likes to have the first place among them and does not receive anything from us with respect, chattering about us with wicked words." What a beautiful quote, okay? So the Watchtower of 1961 identifies the evil slave, which back then they believed was apostates. They now believe that the evil slave is what was the word they used? It no longer means anything, basically. But isn't it interesting that they identify true apostates as those who make accusations without having any evidence whatsoever to back them up? Well, what have we seen in this video? Time and time again, I have been accused as an apostate of being a liar. No evidence given, not one piece of evidence is given in this video. So JW Defense, according to the Watchtower's literature, is like Diotrephes, is an apostate, is the evil slave, because he has accused me, has accused everyone who leaves the Watchtower Society of being a liar, and he has done that without offering a single shred of evidence. So I wanted to leave you on that thought, but please watch my final video where I sum up my thoughts on this video of JW Defense. Thank you.